So today we're going to look at protractors. So protractors are used to draw and measure angles, right? So if we look, this is a protractor. Some may see protractors such as this, which are 360 protractors, but they're kind of few and far between. Most people will have this standard semicircle. So notice something about our protractor here is that it goes from 0 on the outside up to 180, and here it starts at 0 and then it goes up to 180 on the inside down here. Okay, so that's just so we can choose whether we're starting an angle kind of over here for starting at 0 or over here. I know, terrible drawings, but we'll have to deal with it. So, um, what are angles first and foremost? Well, an angle shows how much two lines that touch, how much they differ from each other, right? So what is their separation? How are they separation? How are they separated, sorry? Well, it's separated by a degree. So we talk about degrees typically with a little symbol like that. So if we said 53 degrees, we'd know that we're talking about an angle. Just like if we wrote 53 centimeters, we know we're talking about a length. So we can use this to kind of inform us, well, what does this look like? Okay, or we can use protractors to measure, right, to find out what angles actually are. So that's what we're actually going to just start off by doing. So I'm going to get rid of everything else on this page because you don't really need it. So step one, when we have questions and they say, draw an angle of 50 degrees, well, this is your time to kind of choose where you want to start. So you can either choose to start on the left side, right? Or you can choose to start here on the right side. So here, I'm going to start on this one down here. So anytime you're going to draw, you're going to draw a little bit of a crosshair. So I typically do a little cross like this. You don't have to do it such as, but it can help out. Then notice you have a little crosshair on your protractor at the very bottom in the center where all the kind of lines meet. So we're going to line that up down here. I'm going to line that up. So notice that vertical line that says 0 degrees here is lined up, and same with our bottom. So our next step that we're going to do is mark our 0. So we're going to work in blue. So I'm going to work with blue here on our right. Like I said before, it was opposite, but 0 degrees. And then we want 50. So 0 is on our inside. So we want to keep looking at these inside numbers. So we're looking till we get up to 50. And then we can make another kind of dot on the outside of our diagram. So once you've made those couple marks, you may now take your protractor and put it off to the side. Okay. So if you look at our page, well, we've dealt with connecting lines before and lots of different things, parts of math, but we're just going to connect that bottom line and then connect over from that point up to our line. So notice we've drawn an angle now. And the very last thing we always do with angles is label them just like we would label any other thing. So here, we're going to label that as 50. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to do the opposite way, just as an additional practice for myself. So first thing I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to use that same cross point, just make my life easy. And so first thing we do, mark out our 0 point, right? So it gives us some reference. Then we want to mark out where our 50 is. The more accurate you draw it, the more accurate your results will be. So starting at our point, up to our line, and other point over to our line on the left. And so we can finish this one off by labeling it as 50 degrees. Okay. So do another example of drawing something. So this time we're going to draw an obtuse angle, so it's 120 degrees. So I'm only going to draw the one way this time, and I'm just going to start. So first step, make that little crosshair point, right? Because you have to have that point so we can connect our lines after. Next up, put it on, so it lines up all our points as best as possible. Then we're going to take our pen, and we're going to indicate 0. So I'm going to start this time with 0 over on our right. And then, so therefore I have to use these inside numbers that start at 0 here, right? So just think, whatever this tells us where we're starting from, which one. People always ask, well, I don't know, am I using the inside or the outside numbers? It's you choose. So here, we're going up, following until we find 120. And then we can make a little tick. Obviously, you won't have little things you're trying to draw on top of. There, we've made our little tick. Right, so we can remove our protractor, and we can see our couple lines we have to connect. So you have your ruler, a straight edge. I'm just using a straight edge myself. You don't actually need a ruler. You can use the bottom side of your protractor if you all need be. Connect them, and lastly, let's label it as 120 degrees. Like I said, that could really help you out because you don't want to have to go back and remeasure lines after, but you can actually always check by measuring and say, hey, was I actually pretty close with that? Then you can look, well, yeah, it's right on the line. Perfect. So what happens now in an example like example 3 where, well, wait a sec, a protractor only goes up to 180. Well, we have to figure out that how we get everything else, and we'll do a little trick after that. So here, we know that all straight lines are 180, right? So let's go. We're going to have to do a little maths to begin with. So 227 degrees, and we're going to subtract off 180 degrees. I'll show you why after. So 7, 22 minus 18 is what? 4. So we have indeed 47 degrees. So that's going to be our angle on the other side. So notice here, this all the way to here is 180 degrees, right? But we're not going to draw that hole because what does that mean? That just tells us a straight line is 180 degrees. So it means anything up top would be 180 degrees. So we're going to get rid of everything up top, actually. We're still going to draw our straight line, but we're not going to need anything. It's going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to start off by actually drawing myself a straight line. We're going to use it. And then, once again, I'm going to make a crosshair point. So you don't have to actually draw the full straight line. I'm doing this for a demonstration for you. So here, notice if we go all the way, if we're starting from this point and we're going, sorry, from this point right here, and we're going up and around, right? That's going to be our 180 to get to here. So this is 180 degrees, right? So that means if we start here, but on the opposite side, so I'm going to use a little trick and get this thing out. You can see that our degrees keep going, right? So if we look at our inside, where our blue kind of line is on the right, you can notice our inside measurements get up to 180, then they go 190, 200, 210, 220, 230. So we expect somewhere around our points, somewhere in and around, I'm going to do it in purple so we can check after, somewhere in and around here, right? So we're close to that circle. But you don't have one of those protractors typically. You have this one. So what can we do? Well, let's just use what we have and rotate it completely upside down. That's why we did that little bit of math at the beginning and figured out what that difference from 180 was. So we have our point, and we want to look at, well, what did we say? 47 degrees. So here we can look at those inside numbers, get up to our 45, and we can make a mark at 47. Right? It's just that little tick that's coming off of the star. That's our 47. And so we can get rid of our protractor and draw our line here to here. So make sure you draw your little angle curve in, indicating where our angle starts and then finishes, like that. And we can label that 227 degrees. And it looks like a reflex angle because it's so bigger than 180 degrees and smaller than 360. So, like I said, if it's over 180, you just have to do a little math first. So here, we want to draw two angles and accurately measure them. So just draw two lines that connect on your page. I drew one each way. That way I can practice my skills both ways. So notice how my lines aren't very long. So it's actually, we cannot measure them. So if this ever occurs with you, take your lines and extend them. Even if you didn't draw them, you'll have a ruler and you can always extend your lines. Because now look, we can accurately measure this angle. So we're looking at the outside. I'm starting at the 0 here, and we go up to 35, 36, 37, well, it looks like 38 degrees. So you can indicate it, and don't forget to include your units, which is our degree operator, or degree symbol. So similarly, on our other side, we line up our crosshair where our two lines meet, and we're going to look at our inside measurement there. We can notice, well, it's up at 50. We could have extended the line a little bit, but it is actually big enough because it landed straight on 50. So you just have to kind of use your judgment when you're measuring. And there you go, we have 50 degrees. So here, I have a little bit of practice. So if you want, you can pause your video now. And once you're ready, we will go through these answers. All right, so you're back. Let's go through these really quickly. I'm just going to shrink mine down, hopefully, get a little bit smaller. So here, I'm going to use some technology. So here we're going to take it up, and I can see that that's 50 degrees right there. We got one angle of 50 degrees, which we didn't need. We needed 30 degrees. So let's decrease it back down. Take it down to 30. We'll draw one line. So you're just checking, do your angles kind of look close? So that's what most markers will do. We'll say, well, does it look like it's in the ballpark? And then if they're kind of questioning it, what they'll do is they will get out their own kind of guide, put it over top of your page and see it that way. And they can say, well, no, this is really not even close, or oh, it's within plus or minus 2 degrees. So here, the last one is 267. So keep in mind, even looking at my thing, it's not showing accurately, so I have to do a little bit of math. So I can do 1, 2, 3 back from my 270 is my 267, and there. So your angles should look somewhat similar to this. So we can talk about another date. We can talk about what types of angles these are, right? Being reflex, obtuse, and acute, which we will do right now. So here we want to draw an acute, an obtuse, and reflex, and then measure each. So we just did them up above. So our first one I want to draw is our acute. So acute is anything less than 90 degrees. So it's anything that kind of looks like a mouth, right? Looks like our inequality operators. Our obtuse is anything past that right angle, right? So we just draw a straight line. Then off it, you're just not drawing it straight up or out. I mean, straight up or to the inside. You just draw it the opposite case. So if this is acute, the other way is obtuse. Okay? So just going to label these now. So acute, obtuse, and last one will be reflex. So reflex is just anything that's bigger, right? So anything that's kind of like the reverse Pac-Man. So notice how this is the acute angle in black, and then in red would be our reflex. Okay, not reflect, reflex. Sorry. Um, yeah, let's accurately measure them now. So I'll show you a trick at the very end, but with our reflex, let's just get off to the start. So we're gonna measure our acute angle here, and we can see, well, we can't see very accurately, so I'm gonna extend my line. Yours obviously will be different. We're starting at 0. We can see that we're on 70 degrees. Here, put it back on our line, starting on our inside, right? And we look and we can see that we're at 131, looks like. You can see the bigger we draw our angles, actually the more accurate they seem, because we can use bigger tools. And lastly, this one, well, if we were taking 180 and minusing off before to find what we had to add on, why can't we do the same idea off of the entire circle? Because if we just have this little part, this little acute angle we have to take off, we just have to take it off of a full circle. So it actually can be easier sometimes. So don't worry if you're not doing this exact method right now. I imagine you'll learn this, or we'll get used to learning it. So here, I'm just going to take mine. I got to rotate it a bit so it lines up. And so I can see that I'm looking at roughly, oh, it's a little bit off still. So just play around until you get it as best as you can. And actually, might be actually be better just to flip it upside down. As so. I can see that I'm at 36 degrees for this acute angle. So that means if we take off 36 off 360, we're going to be left with a reflex angle. So this is going to be 360, so that's, what's that, 354? So we know we're going to be there. 324. That'll bring us up to 360. So we know our reflex angle is indeed 324 degrees. And make sure, even if you did your work doing the 36-degree method, instead of doing kind of what I showed you before, make sure that you include the writing of the reflex angle and not just the acute, because they don't care that you know the acute and use all this work. They want to know, can you identify it on your actual diagram?